Today's hot button issue is immigration. From America to Europe to Asia to Africa, every country seems to be tightening its borders. Economic unions are breaking down from the enforcement of this cultural homogeny, and diplomatic relations are taking a hit from all of these migrational policies. It seems the world is moving towards more isolationist hermit kingdoms. But is immigration such a big problem? What if I told you that there are numerous studies that show that immigration is economically beneficial to everyone? Well, this is YouTube, so I know there's going to be people that pause this video and fight me on this. So how about I pick something a little more neutral? Something like population growth? Can we all agree that more humans equals more productivity and more global influence?
For our subject, we'll use the United States and say it closed its borders around 1790. Why 1790? Because it was the first census the United States did, and I don't want to speculate any more than I've already done. We know that immigrants tend to have more children than natives, so we'll use the birth rates of each decade for the United Kingdom, which has a similar culture but did not experience rapid immigration like the United States. Of course, during World War II, the birth rate dropped artificially, so during 1938 to 1946, I'm going to use Sweden's birth rate. So the US population in 1790 was just under 4 million, and when scaled up today, while only using the birth rate and no immigration, we get 8,763,000. That's ridiculously small. For comparison, America's actual population is 320 million. Without immigration, America would be 36 times smaller. Put it in perspective, Sweden's population would be larger. I don't think the US would be a power of any kind if it closed its borders back then. Now that we have this minor detour, let's get back to the main point. Alright, so let's say that every country opens its borders to the rest of the world, and lets in everyone that wants to move in, and lets everyone out that wants to leave. Now before everyone freaks out, I should define this situation a bit. Each country remains sovereign to its land, so everyone is still going to have to follow the laws of the new country, but not the old. Governments and all other current institutions unrelated to immigration will remain the same. Also, let's put in some requirements for needing to find a job in a year, or they have to go home for a while. So people are encouraged to be productive after they move. Alright, so in the first few years, the wealthiest cities will attract all of the immigrants. Cities like London, New York, Shanghai, Dubai, Amsterdam, Los Angeles, and others will boom in population. So much so that the rent will skyrocket and quickly only the rich internationals can live there. These cities will probably remain outpriced due to difficulty in building homes. I have another video going into detail about the rent problems in cities. I'll put a link to it. Since those cities will be unobtainable for the common person, other wealthy but not as lucrative cities will grow slower at first, but quickly rival the booms of the renowned cities. The top 200 metropolitan areas will contain a large portion of the world population. It's hard to know exactly how many, but it would be something around 25% of all humans. These cities would become the most influential, wealthy, and productive regions of the world. Depending on how the local governments handle the influx, this could bring in another period of super economic growth. As well-off people meet and collaborate, entrepreneurial people find large markets, and existing residents become surrounded by new economic activity. Because of the centralization of growth, it would be expected for these cities to command the world's wealth, to the tune of 50% or more. And the governments that administer these cities can also expect to dominate trade, culture, and politics. Okay, so the big cities would just get bigger and more powerful, but not everyone can afford to move to them. What about the other immigrants that won't be a part of the first big waves? Well, there will still be money to capture, so the next 100 or so cities will also get a population boost. However, it will be smaller. They will have value and some influence, but will certainly be overshadowed by the big towns. After a few decades, the metropolitan areas of the 200 cities will grow into each other and create massive megacities. These would be region-wide metro areas the size of California, France, and southern China. Humanity would organize itself around these dozen or so megacities, followed by dots of cities with 10 million plus residents that don't have other metropolitan areas to connect with. The rest of the world would grow dark from depopulation, or little specks of towns that missed out on an immigration but still held on to enough wealth to survive. That being said, the countryside will have some winners too, mostly the territories around the big cities because of all the hungry people, and the places that can only produce exotic products. Those, of course, will continue to do so. Basically, places that are shrinking now would just shrink faster in the future. Okay, so how would the world change because of these megacities? Because the world's labor is more fluid, governments would have to be extremely accommodating to its residents, especially if the governments lack of one of these supercities. Stubborn regimes will quickly find themselves in the position of something like North Korea, only with a few thousand citizens that want to hang around and be exploited instead of millions. I'm not saying everywhere is going to be a beacon of liberty, but expect most places to lighten up, unless of course people are moving to a location for its fundamentalist ideas. The megacities themselves, on account of becoming more multicultural by design, will be more open-minded, like how cities typically are today. Since they own the money, they will also own the culture. Yes, the culture. Just the one. Because whatever the cities produce for entertainment will want to reach the widest audience, so a movie or TV show would appeal to a Libyan in Uberur, or a Russian in California, or a Bolivian in Superlagos. Combine that with the fact that city dwellers experience the same circumstances in life, and slowly you'll see the megacities think in the same way. Another point to add to this includes the fact that all of these different peoples will have to communicate, so lingua francas for each region will emerge, and they will probably be the languages that are already dominant, like English, Chinese, and Spanish. All of this will lead to a pretty singular culture. Sure, there will be different ideas and behaviors between the megacities, but they'll be more like different flavors of the same thing. So opening all of the borders will lead to strong economic growth in the areas that receive the immigrants while dissolving the regions that don't. But averaged out, this event will lead to stronger development. Governments will probably become more open-minded and reserved as the new formed megacities start calling the shots on who makes the money. And our different cultures will homogenize faster than we realize due to interaction and centralization of the communities. Finally, you've probably been thinking that this scenario is happening already because of the globalization and mechanization. Well, you're right. This open border idea would accelerate what is already happening. Open borders would take a few decades as opposed to a century, though.
What do you think? Does the libertarian ideal of no global immigration restrictions seem like a good idea to you? Or do the negatives outweigh the positives? Is it even possible to stop these trends with the immigration policies we already have? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed what you saw, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you want to argue with me on this topic, also leave a comment.